Today we're speaking to Stephen. Welcome to the Integrity Report Uncensored. My name is David Johnson, your host. We don't pull any punches on this uncensored channel. And we're joined by Stephen to talk about the 10 stages of genocide, a chilling framework by Dr. Gregory Stanton. This is, and how disturbing these stages may not just be history lessons, but a mirror reflecting South Africa today. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I think the stages are super interesting, but also super confusing because people think of these stages as like in a video game, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, complete one, get to the next. That's not how these stages are set up. They're meant to be more of a, how many stages does a country already have? Because you've had countries throughout history where they'll have 5 of those stages. One of them happens to also be mass murder, right? So extermination, which is then genocide, even if, for example, they didn't have classification, because these are supposed to be early warning signs, right? That's the whole point of these stages, is so that the world can see what these stages are, because most, if not all of these stages were present during genocides or leading up to genocides. They could start to identify these various different stages. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, I think.
Yes. Okay, that's very interesting. Yes. I think somebody a little while ago mentioned as well that I think Dr. Gregory Stanton, that he even said that he believes that maybe the word stage was the incorrect terminology at the time. And something else, another word should have been used like level or something like that. You know, a different word.
I think
a process. I think the word was process. The 10
process would
processes.
be the 10 processes of genocide. Probably better, but at the same time, stage is not entirely wrong, because it is stages that is reached, right? It's just that you don't need to have all 10. Right, like that's the whole. So, for example, if you go and you look at the stage 10, right, denial, that stage, the Nazis never reached stage 10, right? The Nazis at no point said, "We didn't do this. What are you talking about?" They were openly happy to say we killed all the Jews and we don't care, right? Are we now to say that that wasn't a genocide because they didn't get to stage 10? It's not a genocide because they stopped at extermination. No, of course that was a genocide, right? They were stopped before they could deny, and also they had no interest in denying because they were openly doing it. The whole point here is that not every country or every genocide is going to look exactly like this, but it's a good bet that if your country has 6 or 7 of these stages already going on, you're probably going to get to the extermination one at some point.
Yes, yeah. I think if it was recently as well, from a video from who was it? I can't quite remember it now. It can't get to his name now. There was a video recently. He said that I think he was on the Rubin Report as well. He was actually on the Rubin Report when he mentioned it.
Rob Hersov?
That's the guy, yes.
Okay,
Rob Hersov actually mentioned on the Rubin Report, he mentioned that at present moment, South Africa has up to, I think it was 7 stages all at the same time. They were all playing, all 7 stages were playing out at the same time. But like he also said, I mean, you've got things like classification, which is the us versus them, division into ethnic, racial, religious, or political groups. This is something that we've seen quite literally for the last 30 years in South Africa.
I mean, you literally just have to turn on the news, right?
Yeah.
Like on any given day, you can turn on the news and you will hear someone from the EFF refer to us as colonists, right? Or there will be some kind of language like boer, for example, kill the boer, kill the farmer. This is sort of, it is the us versus them mentality, right? It's that sort of, sort of ingrained or starting to become ingrained in us. And I can tell you, just as someone that uses X on a daily basis, the vitriol. So I'll give you a great example. You know, the general, Lieutenant General Mkwanazi, that came out on Saturday
Oh, yes,
with
yes.
the bombshell allegations against Mr. Makuna, the police minister. Right after that, right, you would think that this would be a lovely opportunity for the country to come together, right? Because our minister might literally be a crime boss, right? Allegedly might be a crime boss. That's a good thing for us to come together. An hour after, you have members of the EFF blaming white people, right, for the stuff that's happening and for how this is white people and apartheid's fault somehow. And I'm sat there and I think to myself, what? How can you turn this racial? But remember, if you have a goal and your goal is ultimately to get to stage 9, then you have to, right? Every opportunity to turn the race of one group into something other than what it is, because we're no longer even referred to as South Africans. Right now, I have literally replies on X from people calling me colonist, right? So I'm no longer referred to as a South African, even though I have a South African passport. I have only ever lived in South Africa except for a year and a half that I lived in the UK on holiday, right? It was like a working holiday visa. I was always planning to come back. So I've never not been South African, and yet I'm called a colonist now.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's definitely that definitely is in the classification, and
Mm,
there has been I think at the end of the day, Donald Trump also with his White House meeting, um,
yeah.
he basically used that to alert the world to
Mm,
show them what's happening before it actually reaches that stage 9, before it
yeah.
actually reaches that stage 9 of extermination. So that hopefully has actually played a very strong role in the decision making by a lot of the Western countries. So
Well, a lot of the Western countries are still so far left and so captured by there's an ideology that it's so present here in the Western Cape where I live. So in Cape Town, it's one of the wildest cities you can live in because you can go. Just today, I'm driving to this shopping center to
mm,
go to the food lovers market to buy some food, and it's this beautiful, beautiful district, right? Like super beautiful, up on the mountains, awesome place. Right next door, there's a squatter camp, right? A township right next door, and it's sanctioned. And then right opposite the road, they're building this low cost sort of RDP housing project. And the mindset, of course, the ideology from the DA is one that thinks people are simply poor because of external circumstance, right? So it has nothing to do with the upbringing. It has nothing to do with culture. It's just if you put people in rich neighborhoods, they'll somehow become rich. And it's like, well, no, all you're really doing is you're just lowering the property value of the rich neighborhood. You're not making these people any better off because poverty starts in the heart. It's not an external factor. Maybe 5% of poor people are poor because of some factor outside of their control. So that sort of that ideology is prevalent throughout the whole of Europe, specifically Europe.
mm.
They look at Africa and the problems of Africa and they blame themselves, right? So they're not going along with Trump. That's
They-
really the sad part of
yeah,
this.
they got this sort of apologist, self-hating, self-loathing.
Mm.
Um, and I think it was Jordan Peterson a little while ago. I was
Mm-hmm.
watching because I watch a lot of Jordan Peterson's videos. Fascinating character, that man.
Oh yeah.
And he actually spoke about the fact that the we've been so focused on we've actually been so focused on the right, the
Yeah.
extremist right, that we've completely ignored the extremist authoritarian leftists that
Yeah.
have now seeped in to almost every facet of government. And
Yeah.
and this is why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing. And although he is struggling he's getting it right. Little bit
Yeah.
by little bit, he is clearing the deck. He is
Mm.
clearing out all these issues that has been causing them a lot of pain, a lot of headaches,
Yeah.
a lot of migraines. He's busy clearing it all out. It's just going to take him some time. So yeah, I agree. There was also another thing when you mentioned that that there is a squatter camp right next door.
Yeah.
I actually heard somebody speaking a little while ago that this is part of their strategy, that they use the squatter camps to encircle the towns and encircle the cities. They use it as a
Yeah.
strategy. Is that true?
So it's sort of that's predicated on the whole. There's people who believe in the Night of the Long Knives scenario, right? So there's going to be this one big scenario where black people on one night decide to try and kill all of the white people. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I just don't really see that happening in the Western Cape specifically. Racial issues in the Western Cape are I think far better than what they are in any other part of the country. People in
Okay.
the Western Cape don't have the same level of hatred towards one another because the cultures are much sort of very similar. So I would say probably not, but I would say that even if it is just organic, it right now you look at something like Joburg and Pretoria, it's completely encircled, right? So where do you go if bad groups, and it doesn't have to be everyone, right? It can be 5%. But if 5% decides they want to kill everyone inside the town, where do you go? Because they do have you encircled. They can literally shut down every way in and out. So I would say there's probably there's probably an argument to be made for it. And I have family members who firmly believe in Night of the Long Knives and that it will happen. I'm more agnostic on that. I'm sort of going, I can see, and I'm definitely cognizant of it. So I keep it in the back of my mind always that it might happen, but I'm not entirely convinced that it will. I will just say one of the things that I do just want to say about what Jordan Peterson said when it comes to we were so focused on the right that we completely forgot the left. I will also say I think right wing extremism is a hell of a lot easier to conquer than left wing extremism because effectively all you need to conquer right wing extremism is to show them that people of other races are pretty much the same. So they just need to meet one black person, right? And talk to them for a few minutes, maybe hang out for a couple of days. And the racism will sort of automatically just go away because you'll realize we have more in common than what we have sort of that differ or that separates us. Left-wing extremism, on the other hand, it's a fugazi, right? Because their idea is that any sort of suffering in the world, any sort of poverty, any sort of suffering in the world must be the result of some systemic racist issue, right? So it's a fugazi. It's a thing of, well, so you cannot have a world that has any suffering in it, even though human beings have always had suffering. And suffering is sort of part of what makes us human. But if there is suffering, and the suffering happens to be from a group that has a specific race that the left now cares about, then somehow the entire system is corrupt and must be changed. How do you fix that ideology? Right, that ideology is a lot harder to fix because it's not like you can just tell them, well, meet a white person and hang out with them and see that they're not racist. Because their argument immediately will be, well, yes, this white person might not be racist, but the system is racist. And so, well, okay, I don't know how to fight the system, right? As you put it. So yeah, just want to point that out.
Okay, so it's definitely not just politics or anything like that.
No.
It's a lot deeper and a lot more embedded in the psyche.
I think there's some that just use it for politics, as always, right? There's always going to be opportunists. But no, I genuinely think you have people like Andile from the Black First, Land First movement. I mean, that guy is not just speaking for politics. He hates white people. He has said it in so many words.
Yeah.
You have people like Julius Malema. He hates white people. He has said it in so many words, right? So, yeah, I don't think they're just doing it for politics.
Yeah, because I saw the video of Andile. He actually, what he says is
Chilling.
yes, it's chilling.
Yeah.
It is very chilling. So
Yep.
yeah. So let's move on to stage two, symbolization. Well, basically assigning names, symbols, or classifying groups, which I think we've pretty much mentioned as well.
Yeah, it's the same as
Labeling as
the first one.
settlers, colonialists, Boers, using it as slurs and things, and the white monopoly capital rhetoric, which was a very
Yeah.
interesting slogan that arose.
Yeah.
Doing a little research, I found out it was actually a UK-based company that had created the slogan,
Oh, of
and
course.
they created the slogan, and shortly after they created the slogan, and it started causing a lot of damage in South Africa. There was fingers pointing to that legal firm, and they'd actually closed down. They've actually.
Well, I will say white monopoly capital is sort of the exact same thing as anti-Zionist, right? Or people who or Antifa, right? It's a series of words or a concept that is tied together to hide a deeper hatred, right? So when I say I'm going to cut the throat of whiteness, what Julius can hide behind is, well, when I talk about whiteness, I mean white monopoly capital, right? So I didn't say I'm gonna slit the throat of whites, which would immediately be like, whoa, bro. Maybe even the far left European countries would be like, oh, that's a bit hard to defend, right? But if I say whiteness, I can sort of it's there's this bit of smoke, a bit of smoke and mirrors. And that's the same thing with anti-Zionism. It's like, oh, I'm not anti-Jew, I'm just anti-Zionist. And so, well, you say that, but you say a lot of other things that sound like you're pretty anti-Jew. And look, I have no problem if people think the Jews are bad or what the Jews are doing in Israel is bad. I don't know enough about that conflict to care about what's going on there. I think people should be honest, right? Don't call yourself anti-Zionist. Just say, yeah, I hate Jews. Okay, great. Now we know where we stand. But there's sort of this. It's these sort of mirror words, right, that allow you to escape. You can just sort of run away.
Yeah, it's a real sort of heavy play on words. They basically hide behind words is what they're doing. They're hiding behind the words, although they have a more chilling meaning, but they're hiding behind those words. Okay, that's
Stage 3 is barely in. Like, we barely have to discuss it. It's called discrimination, and like
that's true. Yes. Discrimination. I mean, affirmative action, BEE. All these
144 race laws.
Actually, there's 145 now.
Okay, well,
I checked the IRR race labor or race law today, and it's now standing at 145 race laws and 345 total since race laws original inception.
It would have been 345 because they just added the new working quota law that's been added now, I think like a week ago or a month ago.
So it's sitting at 145.
Yeah, well, that's so anyone who wants to make the argument, well, no, what discrimination? Like literally you can read any part of our law, anything that's been passed in the last 30 years, and you will find that race is sort of baked into it.
Yeah.
If you are white in this country, we just had this, and this is just disgusting. And if any of our listeners or viewers are if you ever shop at Bitvest, I want to make it super clear you should stop immediately. So we just uncovered Bitvest has this program where they will pay for your kids, I believe, your kids' education if you work for Bitvest, but you earn under 15,000 something a month, but only if you're not white. So
Yes,
if you're white and you earn under 15,000, good luck. So long, your kids can pay for themselves.
I read that article. It is a chilling article to say the least, because one of if you look at the affirmative action, BE policies, laws, excluding specific races and stuff like that, then you look at, you know, as it is, government does it. Now you're having corporate climbing. I mean, Bidvest is not a small company.
No, they're massive.
They're a massive company. I've noted there's quite a few companies attached, smaller companies attached to.
Waltons, Plumlink.
Yeah.
It's like they have multiple sectors of the entire economy. I mean, in those sectors, they sort of not just own companies in the sectors, they oftentimes own all of the competition in that sector. So it doesn't matter who you go to buy with, you're buying from Bidvest ultimately.
It's just a chilling reminder that how discrimination is really sort of flooding everywhere through South Africa, to the point where you actually have corporate now getting involved and corporate starting to do the same thing. So that is actually a chilling reminder of you know, the stages that are occurring in South Africa. So the stage, and then stage 4, dehumanization. One group denies humanity of another. I actually want to point out one thing that did occur is that I actually noted a video where white people that are of the lower class white people were denied access to the hospital.
Oh,
so
that makes sense.
I actually noted that it was on X. I actually found it on X. I need to actually find it. I don't know if I bookmarked it. I need to find it. And somebody actually showed where white people were trying to go into the hospital, and they were pushed out, and the door was closed by a black woman.
I mean, the truth is, we have this movement at the moment where a bunch of people are trying to get rid of all foreigners, right? So they're blocking foreign access to clinics. Now, I have opinions on the foreigners in South Africa. I don't think illegal foreigners should be in the country, but of course, you and I definitely am not an illegal foreigner, right? I was born here, so I am by law a legal citizen of this country.
I'll tell you a
but
secret.
Of course,
I was born in the Western Cape.
Well, there you go, right? So you are by law a South African citizen as well.
Yes.
But now remember, in the mind of a lot of black people, you and I are not by law South African, right? We're by law European, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, it's just it's really I mean, and then I look at the videos where Julius Malema is sitting in front of a media, the actual media, the mainstream media, and he's talking to them. He says, "Oh, he's not calling." Even in the court, it says he's not calling for this the slaughter of white people yet.
In court, he actually said, I can't promise you that I won't call for the slaughter of white people, because the judge was asking him, can you promise that you will not call for the death of white people? And I was like, no, I can't say that. I don't know what the future is going to be, which is a nice way of saying we just don't have the numbers yet.
Yeah.
Like if I could get to 20% of the country's population, I'd probably try to kill all the white people. But for now, I won't.
That's a very chilling
But I will
reminder.
also not say that I won't, right?
Yeah. That is a very chilling reminder of dehumanization being part of the steps that are currently running through South Africa. It is just and then obviously it is insane. And then social media narratives as well, calling whites demons, thieves, vermin, things like that. It's I see the crazy. I mean, I look at what's on X, but it look, a lot of people will say, you know, X is like this massive cesspit of toxic waste. So a lot of people say that, but the thing is, then you may as well call all social media a cesspit of toxic waste, because it's the one place where a lot of people actually are able to release their anger in many instances, and a lot of people do. Um,
X is the world without a filter.
Basically, yes.
That's it. That is
and
all it is.
and the thing is, at the end of the day, you also got. I mean, imagine if social media wasn't there and people weren't releasing their anger there, and they were doing it
Mhm.
out in the real world. There would be absolute chaos. So, to
Well,
a degree, it has helped. It's not
mm,
good necessarily. I'm not saying it's a good thing that they're doing what they're doing,
yeah.
but it's it definitely helps for people to release it without like going out there and start beating people up and stoning them and things like that.
I do think the problem with dehumanizing language, and that's
Mm,
why it's one of the stages, is there's a difference between expressing um, frustration or expressing anger
mm,
at a group, right? So let's imagine you're white and you're completely fed up with the black people in the country running the country into the ground, right? There's a big difference between expressing that and using the K word, right?
mm,
Or saying things like, "Oh, they're animals," right? Because at in the one instance, you're still viewing it as people.
mm,
You're just upset with what these people are doing. It's a very different case when you start to dehumanize these people, because the whole point of
mm,
dehumanization is that when it comes to killing, so the Nazis, for example, the reason they were able to kill so many Jews is they genuinely believed that the Jews were pests. They were rats. They didn't view them as anything of value, right? And so for them, it was you wouldn't. No one would shed a tear over killing a rat,
mm.
right? In fact, we buy poison and we feel good when the rat is dead because we don't want the rat anywhere near us. That's exactly why dehumanizing language is such a dangerous thing. And I would say it's one thing to just express anger on social media. What we're seeing in South Africa, the level of vitriol that's being spewed and the dehumanizing nature of that, because that will eventually push into action. Right? It will be the thing that forces people to action.
Yeah, well, that's basically what I meant. In terms of if people want to get angry, that's fine. They get angry,
Yeah.
but obviously not push it towards the whole
Mm.
dehumanizing side of things, because
Yeah.
now obviously then you're pushing into dangerous boundaries. You're pushing past
Yeah.
dangerous boundaries. So
Mm.
yeah, and then of course you've got the organization. Obviously genocides are always organized. There's usually a state or militias, state-funded policies enabling racial targeting, SAPS, ignoring or dismissing rule, and farm murders. Now, this is where the whole issue comes. Now, this is where, with the farm murders and everything, this is where I think the whole sort of police situation comes in with regards
Mm.
to the police minister and the police and everything that are quite literally because, as I said, Chris Wyatt was a friend of his, a dear friend of his. Their farm was targeted, and
Yeah.
they were brutally beaten. But nothing was taken from what I found out. Nothing was taken. He had taken the gentleman's firearm, but he had dropped it, so it actually got left behind. And they when they opened the case, the police opened it up as a house robbery. Now, when you open it up as a house robbery and you've got somebody that's been brutally beaten, brutally attacked, and then dies later in hospital, why didn't they convert it to a murder? Why didn't they convert? Why don't they? But they didn't.
Yeah.
They leave the docket as a house robbery. So in my eyes, this if you look at the statistics are completely skewed because you have um, you saying it's this when it's that in actual
Yeah.
fact. So this is where
And how often does that happen?
that I can't say it happens often. However, I personally also was subject to the Belleville police station in South
Uh-huh.
Africa, in the Western Cape. The Belleville police station, when I went to go open a case of assault and theft, um, I opened the case up, and as I left, going round where the front window is. As I left the front door, going out past the front window, I saw them throw the docket in the dirt bin.
Sounds like the police.
So,
Sounds like the police.
so the things like that would basically fall within the organization in the sense that, it's not necessarily militias going around and killing people. Well, it could be. We don't know if these guys are part of militias or not. They could be foreigners. They could be locals. We don't know. But it is happening.
Yeah. I mean, it's organization by inaction, right?
Yeah.
I think you said that earlier as well. The issue is, and we spoke about this last week, when you have something like the 2010 World Cup, and during that World Cup, not a single farm murder occurs, right? Up until the week of the World Cup, there's farm murders every single week. And then for the period of the World Cup, not a single farm murder occurs. It is a hard sell that there isn't some kind of organization behind this, especially considering farm murders and farm attacks was literally started by the ANC in the 1980s. It was their plan to sort of force the white people off the rural areas and into the cities so that they could corner all of the white people in the cities. That was the idea, right? So it was started by the ANC, and it is either this has government backing or it's groups that use, because remember the MK veterans, they're still active. They're still out there. And some of them are not necessarily that old, right? Because there were some of them that were 20 in 1994. So they'll be like 50 now. So they're probably still capable of going around training young people to go and carry out these missions that they seem. So I find it very difficult, either through inaction or through actual organization. I find it very difficult to say that there's just nothing happening here.
Yeah, I'd definitely agree with that, because if you think about it as well, there's a video going around that I also noted as well that was that I think Ronaldo Gous actually played as well in one of his videos. They were teaching little children to sing the "Kill the Boer, kill the farmer" slogan. That is just crazy. That I was shocked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was shocked that schools in the rural areas, especially in the black communities, are teaching children this. This is basically starting from an early age, for the lack of a better word, brainwashing.
Yeah.
Ideologically brainwashing children.
Yeah, it's literally what it is.
Yeah, then we get to the polarization. The very definition of extremists drive groups apart with propaganda and targeted violence, media bias, stoking racial division, political parties using race baiting. Oh, that's very common.
That happens here
all
the time.
Common.
Literally everything we've been discussing up until this point speaks to that.
Yes, it does. It does, especially with the media bias as well. It is. I mean, I read some of the stuff from News 24, and it is just wow.
Yeah,
it is quite literally. I mean, IOL. I heard that there was actually a video from who was it? Willem Petzer, I think it was. He had a video out where he actually stated that the pension funds are being used as investments into various companies, and they're being lost. I think it was 2.7 trillion rand. I think it's 2.7 or 3.2 trillion rand in somewhere in that region. The pension funds is now being used by the government, and they say, oh, they don't have any influence, but yet the one that picks the board is the finance minister. He controls who selects the board, or so they do control PIC. But anyways, they used, I think they gave 1 billion to IOL.
Of course.
And now we know why IOL loves the government so much.
Yeah, I mean,
mainstream media basically is being bought by the government.
Yeah. I mean, the problem with mainstream media is they're running out of money, right? There's very little money in mainstream media. The money increasingly is either in like your more fringe, almost truth tabloids, right? The ones that's willing to print the actual story,
Yeah.
because they'll get actual people backing them in order to do that. But in terms of what mainstream media used to be, that's dying. YouTube is taking over.
Yeah.
If you're a company today, 90% of a company's marketing budget goes towards YouTube, right? The other 10% goes to Twitch and all the other publications out there,
Yeah.
because YouTube is where the money is. And I think mainstream media feels that, right? They're suffering. And so when the government comes around and says, "Hey, we have money to invest," they're going to take it,
Yeah.
and they're not going to like it's. You might say, "Well, yeah, but we're going to remain independent," but you're not really. When you know that if the government were to withdraw their funds, you lose your job, you're going to be sure not to write exactly what you want to write. Right? You're going to self-censor. That's ultimately what it is.
Yeah. It's basically, oh, I can't upset the investor because, well, so
Yeah. And if you're
so
not thinking about it, your editor is guaranteed thinking about it, right?
yeah.
Someone is thinking about it. Like, even if the journalist on the ground writes a scathing article, by the time it comes out, that article has gone under eyes that are thinking, what can we and can we not say in order not to lose our biggest investors?
That's true.
And if we're just going to be clear, we now see how companies and corporations like Bitfaced is in league with the government. So there's a good chance that a lot of these corporations are also very clear in, if you want my advertisement money, you'd better not make too many waves. Because, and I don't necessarily think that Bitfaced is on the side of the government because they also dream of killing white people. I think it's more a case of they just don't want the boat rocked. Right? There might be a couple more years that they can loot and steal and bleed this country dry. And they want all of the time left. Right? And if the media suddenly starts making waves and Trump and the rest of the world finds out and sanctions are employed, the rand goes to zero, the economy goes to zero, and the party is over. Right? So from Bitfaced's perspective, it's like, look, we know that we're heading towards the cliff. We're aware of that. But we're not there yet. And we would prefer if you don't speed us up, because we still have a couple of $1 billion to make.
Yeah. It's ludicrous.
Yeah.
Anyways, the preparation as well. It's plans are made, victims are identified and separated.
This is the one where I just want to say, I think this is the one where we can sort of, there's arguments for and against, right? As we spoke. You can look at some of the things that's happening, like kids, for example, now singing songs like Kill the Boy, Kill the Farmer.
Yeah.
You can look at that and say, is that sort of very early stages of preparation? You can look at, we have reports of MK veterans training in Mozambique, sort of youth leagues training in Mozambique, getting military training in Mozambique. Why are they getting this military training in Mozambique? What's the purpose or point of it? Right. So there's questions that you can ask. Yeah. The problem is none of those questions actually firmly point to us being fully in preparation, because you make a bunch of other arguments for it as well. Okay. Like these groups that's training in Mozambique, there's arguments that, well, actually, this wasn't military training in Mozambique. It was more like an initiation thing, because we don't know, right? So it's sort of, it could be a lot of things.
Okay. Well, do you think maybe that these groups, like MK veterans, with youngsters training up in Mozambique, do you think that plays along possibly with the fact that the UK and Europe have now launched a alert to their citizens? They need to be on a higher level of alert if they go to South Africa. And they stated specifically that there is a potential for terrorist attacks.
Yeah, I think they were Islamic terrorist attacks. although maybe not Islamic because the UK tends not to want to use the word Islamic.
Well, that's true.
So maybe they wouldn't say Islamic. But I know of the alert. And look, I can see it either way. It could be the MK stuff, but it could also be the Islamic thing. South Africa has had an open border policy with countries like Pakistan, with countries in the Middle East, and it might be that out of 100 Middle Easterners that come to this country, 99% of them, or 99 of them, are perfectly good and honest and great people. But all it takes is one guy with a bomb, right? And he kills 40, 50, 60 people. That's all it takes. You don't need all 100 or even a majority to be bad. You just need that one bad apple. And we have so many people from Pakistan in this country. You're in the Western Cape. Every single off license, every single cafe is owned by Pakistanis. You go into every single one of them, and it's Pakistanis, right? And it's like 4 or 5 working there.
I remember, yes. Lots of them.
Every single barbershop, Pakistani, right? And it's just everywhere. Now, I have no problem with Pakistanis. They're brilliant, beautiful people. I have no problem with them. But some of them are fundamentalists, right? So it's sort of like, we're this country is walking into one hell of a weird place. And we kind of know that there's something there. You remember during the KZN riots?
Yes.
The white people there said that literally, as soon as these riots broke out, the very next day, these trucks arrived in their neighborhoods, filled with guns, AK-47s, ammunition. Every single day, these trucks would arrive in the neighborhoods to give them a loaf of bread, milk, coffee, tea, some meat, food, every single day, right? And it wasn't just for the Muslims. They also gave to the white people. So everyone in the block got fed, but guns and ammunition was given to every single Muslim in the block because they protected their own neighborhoods, right? The Muslims were the ones who protected their malls, protected their... So clearly there is some kind of armed response within these groups, right? That kind of has to scare the living crap out of you. Like, how is a bunch of civilians capable of having this military response unit almost?
I think it's all because myself personally, I'm a prepper as well. So I think it's also over time, because of everything that's been going on in South Africa. I think looking at how they responded, one of the things that preppers tend to do, not all preppers are the type that go lone wolf solo.
Yeah.
Quite often they basically build up their community, and then the community has to protect themselves, and they teach each other, they work with each other. I'm actually part of a group in Howick, and they actually have the ability to quite literally cordon off an entire massive neighborhood that sits on the side of a cliff.
Oh, okay.
And you're not getting up the side of that cliff. So the only part they have to protect is the front and sides. So they don't have to worry about the back, because you're not getting up that cliff. So, and the thing is, they have their entire area is, they basically have their own neighborhood watch. They're all armed. They all have cameras. Everything is monitored. They make sure everything is looked after. So the whole idea behind a prepper's mentality is being ready for whatever happens. So whatever happens is I think that's basically what has happened in that situation. The Muslims have decided, they need to be prepared for whatever. So that is why they did what they did. Is, if I can just add that comment to that.
No, that's perfectly fine. It's just, it is a little scary that civilians have that level of military military readiness, I guess you could say. But yeah, as to the preparation conversation, mostly, I think it boils down to there's some things here. For example, I'm looking at the list: calls to expropriate land without compensation. That can definitely be a call to lead to preparation. So whilst I wouldn't say that alone is necessarily preparation yet, that can certainly become preparation very quickly. In Zimbabwe, it took less than a couple of months from the moment that they started talking about it to the moment where it became, well, go get your farm. Right. And then they literally organized and they went and they took their farms. Now, the nice thing in Zimbabwe was that most of the white people in Zimbabwe could leave to South Africa. And so the black people in Zimbabwe had no interest in really killing a lot of the white people in Zimbabwe. They would just say, get off. Right. And so they left. The problem in South Africa is, where do we go? Right. If you tell us get off, the very next question is where? Right? It's not like we can go back to the UK. Most white people in South Africa don't have a UK passport. It's not like we can go further south. This is the most south you go. Right. So you're almost automatically going to have to fight back because there's no other option. And that's where the violence will almost certainly escalate when we get to that level of preparation, or I guess at that point you're already in persecution, which is stage 8.
I'd say that's if they start doing that, they're basically in the stages of persecution and extermination. At that point in time, because they're actually going out to literally kill, thousands.
I think you can actually put stage 8 and stage 9 together. It's also important to remember these are very old. Right. Because you can absolutely have a genocide without ever getting to extermination by just persecution. If your persecution is at the level where it will automatically replace a certain subset of your country based on their racial background, that is still genocide. Right.
That's true.
If you're gonna tell me, oh wait, Zimbabwe didn't genocide the white people, then the next question will be, well, where are the white people of Zimbabwe? They're not there. So in other words, they were genocided. Just because they weren't killed doesn't, because Zimbabwe had a white population and now it doesn't have a white population. Right. Like that's still genocide, but people get so hung up on there must be death. Well, there were some deaths, right? But just because it wasn't extermination, it was still a complete cultural replacement that happened.
And I think this quite literally what you've just said there now is quite literally more often than not where mainstream media gets it wrong. But what mainstream media focuses on, mainstream media is focusing on the last stages, the actual extermination. Now they only focus on extermination. They only focus on the death of so my question then would be, if they're only focusing on the death part, then I mean, if you look at persecution, over 4,000 farmers have already been killed. So if they're only looking at the number, how many bodies will it take before mainstream media even calls it a genocide? That's the thing. Genocide is not about the number of bodies.
No.
So in mainstream media's eyes, how many bodies will it then take before they
South African mainstream media?
Yeah, South African mainstream media.
If the last white body, if it's the last white body, they'd still go, what do you mean? There were never white people here.
Yeah.
Right? They would never admit that, because there's a bunch of white people that work in the mainstream media that would probably thank their murderers as they're being killed. Thank you for punishing me for being a racist asshole or whatever, right? Because they hate themselves so much. And I'm sorry, I just don't have that. Right? That white guilt thing, I don't have white guilt. I don't feel guilty about anything. Like if you think apartheid was unfair, I agree with you, but I'm not going to be sorry about it. I didn't do it. I was 9 when it ended. You have to go back to my ancestors to go deal with that crap. I'm not taking responsibility for it. And whenever you say, well, you have to pay for it, I won't. I
Yeah.
won't. Well,
No,
why should I pay for something I had no hand in?
I completely agree. And this is where another question would come in is that why should we have white guilt when
Hmm.
this was done by our forefathers? And why should we believe in the transgressions of the past
Yeah.
generations be put down onto the newer generations? Because if we do it that way, then we should look at the reciprocation of, you have the Zulus that killed the Boers
Mm-hmm.
when they went to ask for or buy land.
And when they were trying to make peace,
Exactly. So,
they
and then
killed
they were killed.
Retief.
So then basically the Zulus should be held responsible for that, which was
Yeah.
even before apartheid. So
Yeah.
the thing is, they will say, oh, but they weren't responsible. Okay, great. Then that same argument would work for us in the sense that we had nothing to do with it. We didn't cause it. It
At the end
was
of the day, history is messy,
mm,
right? And if we start to play the game of, well, you did that and you did that,
yeah,
we're gonna end up with no one alive because we're gonna kill each every person for the transgressions of their forefathers.
exactly.
Because we can start talking about how other African tribes were coming to the Boers for protection from the Zulu because the Zulu was hunting and slaughtering every single tribe they could find because the Zulu was a war nation, right? They weren't a nation of farmers or domestication. They were a nation that, oh, you have stuff, we'll kill you and take your stuff, right? They didn't make their own, they just took whatever they wanted. And there were tribes who came to us. The Xhosa famously asked us to take the land between them and the Zulu to sort of stop the Zulu and the Xhosa from killing and slaughtering each other. So
Mm,
this entire argument of, oh, he said, she said, and you're going to pay for this, it just, I'm sorry, but no. I don't feel sorry about it. And don't come at me with this nonsense of, oh, but you held us back.
mm,
No, we didn't. You were back when we got here. When the Europeans arrived here, they arrived with ships and guns and cannons. You guys were living in huts and fighting with spears and shields. They it You had access to all of the resources. You didn't use it. You didn't do any. It's not like you were already mining iron, right? Like you didn't even know that there were iron in the
mm,
mines to begin with. So don't come at me like, what's the argument? It's so frustrating. I want to make a video about this actually because
mm,
the frustrating thing here is we're constantly sold this bill of goods that if we didn't steal their stuff, they would have somehow been more advanced than what they are. And it's like, well, what, 100 years ago you would have suddenly started manufacturing goods and mining? Like you weren't doing it 100 years ago.
yeah.
Why do you think you would have been doing it now? Right? Like, you clearly had no interest. And look, this is not I'm not making a racial superiority argument. I just want to make
No,
that super clear
no, that's
because
understandable.
I think it literally just boils down to our forefathers came from Europe,
Mm,
right? A harsh land where it is genuinely the survival of the fittest because winters will kill you. So you are forced to try and extract as much resources as you can and then figure out how to keep that resource for as long as possible. In Africa, it's much easier, right? Resources are plentiful. Winters are not really that cold. Summers are beautiful. Lots of rain, lots of water, lots of food. So you're not forced to discover iron, right? Or discover coal. You're not
mm,
forced to build boats because you have everything you need right here and it's good. So I'm not making an argument here that white people are better than black people, but we definitely didn't take your progress, right? You weren't progressed to begin with.
no, that we
Um,
definitely didn't do.
yeah.
And to be honest, I mean, there may have been in the apartheid era, and no, I'm not defending apartheid either. It was a system that didn't work. It caused heartache. It caused
Yeah, it's a terrible system.
it was a terrible system, but there were occasions where they took land from people. But the thing is, what is now being perpetuated is the fact that we as whites took all their land, but they were never originally from Southern Africa. They migrated from the north. So it's you can use that as an argument as well. But the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a lot of this is this political and ideological arguments is now just literally starting to gun at minorities. And
I will say this: I am no fan of the apartheid system because I think fundamentally you can't keep a group of people down and out, right? That's just never going to happen. You're always going to end up with nonsense, right? You had people who were falling in love across races, and that was a crime. It's like, what the hell are we talking about, right? I also don't want to ever see that system return. I have no interest in living in a system where, because I kind of think different cultures are fun, right? I'm very open to different cultures, but I think my own culture is amazing, right? I love being an Afrikaner. I love having Afrikaner family. It's my culture, and I'm very proud of that culture, right? But I happen to enjoy a bunch of other cultures, and I think they're all beautiful and great in their own rights. So I do think apartheid was super evil, but the point is simple. I'm not going to pay for that. It had nothing to do with me.
Exactly.
Just the same way that I'm not going to blame you for the stuff that you have done in your past. I'm not going to ask you to blame. I'm going to ask you to not blame me for stuff that was done in my past that I didn't do myself. That's as simple as it is. And I think an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Right? That's just how it is. We can't do this. We can't keep going in circles here where we say, well, you have to pay for the stuff that you did during apartheid. So now we're just going to do apartheid to you. So, okay, fine. But at some point we'll get power and then we're just going to repeat this cycle because now we have to do it back to you. Who's breaking the cycle? Who's stopping the hatred and actually getting us to work together?
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, just to add to that as well, on persecution, where there's human rights abuses, separation of peoples, victims are identified. This is where over 4,000 farm murders have occurred. These statistics, in any case, if I can, these statistics come from AfriForum. So I think their statistics are far more accurate. And they had, I think, over 4,000 farm murders since 1994 and over 20,000 farm attacks since 1994. And this is obviously a systemic persecution. And obviously now the collapse of services in minority communities, which is, I mean, that's actually happening everywhere in South Africa. Municipalities, local governments are falling to pieces. I actually worked at one of them. And I can tell you the corruption that was going on in there. That's a story I will speak to you about soon. Don't worry.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
You'd love to hear it because the stuff that went on there, wow. But let's carry on. Extermination, stage 9. Mass killings legally defined as that specific point. They legally define as the genocide itself. Obviously, this is now where the mass killings would occur. You know, obviously, if extermination only begins once it's obvious, haven't we already missed the warning signs? I'd say yes, definitely. The whole purpose of all the other stages is the warning signs before we get to extermination. And your take on that?
No, I agree with you. I think whether you want to make the argument we're in that or we're not, we're approaching it, the signs are all there. If you're not seeing it, it's because you don't want to see it. It's as simple as that. It's because you desperately don't want that to be true.
Okay. Well, but that will then, I suppose, sort of take us right over to the next one, which is the denying
Denial.
of the crime. Yeah, denial,
Yeah.
stage 10. Perpetrators deny the crime, blame the victims, and erase history. And we know for a fact that
We're in that.
ANC has regularly tried changing history, rewriting
Mhm.
history books, and telling people something else.
Yeah.
Um, that you know
Hmm.
the settlers that came in were the invaders and we stole land. They're basically
Yeah.
rewriting history, and so yes, that would be part of the
Well,
denial.
not just that. It's you literally have farm murders that's happening, specifically black people killing white people because they're white.
Mm.
And you have the government not only saying that, no, that's not a hate crime, you have the government sitting in the White House basically saying, "Well, it's not happening."
Mm.
Right. So even if we don't have extermination yet, we most certainly have denial of any sort of wrongdoing of any kind whatsoever.
And denial's not a river in Egypt.
No, definitely not. Not in this one.
Excuse me. Okay, well, that ends the stages that we've
Mhm.
basically discussed. And the stages don't have to end in genocide
No.
unless we basically if we want to actually stop genocide, or if we want to stop the stages, it doesn't have to end with genocide. So it's more about, I think, we need to keep people understanding that it's not genocide. The word isn't necessarily the last two stages. It is, or the stage 9 is it's not
It's the
just
whole thing.
exterminate. It's the whole thing of all 10 stages. And I think that is where educating people a bit more with regards to that, if we can, that would actually help a lot. um and obviously, as I said as well, we need to open dialogue, truth telling, equal protection under the law for everyone. And this is something that has bugged me somewhat, because the justice system is so flawed in South Africa that you
Mhm.
actually have, at this present moment, judges that are allowing murderers out on a bail of 500 rand. That's what,
Yeah.
$20.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And then you have um, whites that protected themselves, shot somebody, and they go to jail for 20 years.
Yeah.
But yet you have murderers that come in and they get bail for 500 rand. It just blows my mind how, I mean, even the NPA, which is supposed to be the National Prosecuting Agency, is just clearing people of wrongdoing when the
Yeah.
evidence proves that there has been wrongdoing.
But
It
and
just blows my mind.
the thing is, you have a country that has a government that has no respect for morality or legality, right? And the fish rots from the head. Fundamentally, our country is going to get a lot more lawless, a lot more crime ridden. And the problem is, when you have a group of people that is poor and you have politicians telling them your poverty is the direct result or direct cause of white people,
Mm.
um, that lawless people will say, well, then kill all those white people because that's how we fix the problem. If they are the problem, getting rid of them should fix that problem. Um, so yeah, it's at the end of the day, education is super important, right? And people knowing what is going on, I think, is kind of all I can do. It's all you can do. It's what we're doing here
Mm.
right now. Is just trying to tell people what is actually going on, and hopefully that allows them to make up their own thoughts and their own sort of ideas.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that comment. Would you like to say any final comments before we give a teaser for the next episode?
I would just like to say thank you to everyone. Please hit the like if you enjoyed what we do here, and let us know in the comments what's your take on all of this because it's always interesting to read what you guys have to say.
Thank you very much. And then, as we move forward to the next episode will be about blood, bribes, and the power nexus between corruption, political killings, and crime lords, criminals. So this should be an interesting episode that we'll discuss, and I hope to see you all there. And I'd like to say thank you to our guest this evening. Thank you, Stephen, for being here.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. And this is the Integrity Report Uncensored, signing off.